Hey guys, and welcome to the 30th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast. Thanks for all those who listened to the last podcast I put out with my buddy Joey Meyer. Had some really good feedback on that. Had a lot of fun talking to Joe and talking about baseball and just getting a little bit of his early life and coming up through the system and his time in the major leagues. But today, kind of switching gears a little bit. And on this episode, I talked to a childhood friend of mine, Dustin Cheatwood. Dustin's battled addiction for a long time, and he really opens up and talks about his addiction, talks about his recovery, and just kind of gives some good advice to those who might be struggling or might be battling through what he's gone through. So I want to hop right in. I hope you guys enjoy it. Here's my episode with my buddy Dustin Cheatwood.
Hello.
Hey,
What's up, buddy?
how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Long time no talk, huh?
Yes, it's been a while.
No kidding, man. Everything going okay?
Yeah, wonderful.
Good, man. We're going to get into that kind of, don't want to spoil too much of it, but I'm glad to see, I follow you on Facebook, obviously, and kind of keep up with you a little bit, and looks like things are going very well, so I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Of course, man. Of course, I had a couple days off from work here. Got to kind of chill a little bit.
Yeah, I do 410s. I'm blessed to have a 410 and then 3 days off.
Very nice. 410s are great. I did that for about 6 years. For a couple of those years, I had Tuesday off, which was kind of a bummer. But after a while, I got Wednesdays off, which was great because you work 2, off 1, work 2, off 2. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm going to start school, so I'm going to do a class on those days to fill that. So it'll work out.
Good deal, man. Good deal. This is good to talk to you, man. I like I said, it's been a long time, and I'm kind of anxious to catch up. I know I had messaged back and forth with you a few times before we talked, and kind of shot it out there. Hey, man, is anything off limits? Because I kind of want to go as deep as you want to go, and I kind of think if people can hear this and maybe it helps one person. But if there's anything I touch on and you say, I'd rather not talk about that, you just let me know, and we can work around that or edit it out or anything you're not comfortable doing.
Got it.
Sound good, man. All right,
yeah.
Dude, well, let's jump in. Let's jump all the way back. Let's go back early for people who don't know. We've known each other for probably, oh my gosh, man, 34 years, 33 years, something like that.
Yeah. I'd say it was about 5, 6 years old when we met each other. I remember your dad putting me over the fence one time. Remember that?
Yeah, Dusty, people who know Dustin, he had a little bit of a temper back then, a little bit of a wild child. But yeah, he used to come down and play all the time. And Dad wasn't, he didn't spank me, so he wasn't going to spank somebody else's child. But he would set you down over the fence and say, you need to go relax, go home. You can come back then, tomorrow, but you need to go home for now.
Yeah. Good times, though.
No doubt, man. We had a lot of fun together. Went on a lot of trips together, played a lot of ball together. Like, I remember one of the big memories of you and I involve your cousin Ethan as well. And I want to touch on him a little bit later, but just coming over and playing Nintendo. You guys would be here for a whole weekend, man. And we would go off and just sit in my room and play Nintendo for the entire weekend.
Yeah. I'm forever grateful for those memories. Your dad and you was able to teach me the sports and baseball and basketball, and got to play on a lot of the teams that you played on.
No doubt, man. We had a lot of fun. One thing I do want to ask you, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, and going back to you talking about baseball, man. Again, anybody that knows us, that grew up with us, would know this story, but people who don't wouldn't. We were playing in a game when we were minor league, little league, and poor old. You took a daggone beanball right to the chops, man, right to the face. I don't think I've ever talked to you about that. Like, do you remember that? Is that something vivid you remember? Is it something you kind of tried to forget, or?
No, I remember it well. I remember it well. I remember trying to take my base, and they was like, no, you need to go sit down. I didn't notice I was bleeding really bad. Fortunately, I didn't have to get any stitches or anything over that, but I did have a some kind of blister like thing inside the jaw that wouldn't go away for quite some time. I do remember though, really spooked me. It psychologically really messed me up going forward, like staying in the batter's box and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now back then they didn't have the, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall we ever had the guards that they have now for the kids, like face, like kind of, I would wear a catcher's mitt and they kind of made fun of me for that for a while, but I was freaked out. I mean, yeah, I took a good shot. I think the guy who pitched it, you know him too, could pitch pretty fast back in them days, and was very intimidating in stature too, because he was tall and he was on the mound and like, so yeah, it really freaked me out going forward. I don't think I was ever able to play fastball baseball again. I played some softball and had a lot of fun with that later in life, but yeah, so that really was a shot that I took pretty hard, more mentally so than physically.
Right. That's what I was going to say, man. It had to do, obviously, we remember you going up with the catcher's equipment on and stuff like that. And people would make fun. Who cares? We're kids, man. That's ridiculous. You know how kids are anyway. But yeah. I always wondered, man, what must have went through his head up there? Because especially at that age, if you're in high school or, college ball or whatever, okay, that stuff's going to happen. You're going to take it. But when you're still developing, basically, and you're in there with like I said, I believe it was Chris that was on the mound. Was it Chris Palm that was on the mound that day?
No, it was Kyle.
Kyle, that's right, Kyle Stewart. Yeah. Chris Palm hit. I think Chris Palm hit Nathan Hudson. But yeah, Kyle was on the mound, and dude, Kyle was so much bigger than all of us back then, anyway. So, like you said, there's that intimidating presence, and then man.
Yeah, he could whiff the ball too. I think it was at the fair years after that. I remember this because this is kind of funny. He was playing that fast pitch game, and he threw like 85 and put my name on there. We always got along. Kyle, right. I know Kyle a long time too. But yeah, he threw 85 that day. So yeah, he was throwing the ball pretty fast. It hit me pretty hard. It knocked me half out. I mean, I remember kind of like stumbling and it dazed me pretty good. And then I started to take my base, and I think it was your dad said, I think you need to take a seat. I was like, okay, maybe I will. And then I saw the blood, kind of freaked out a bit. But it was more mentally than it was, the physical part of it. Because it really, it spooked me. I was spooked after that, going in the batter's box, yeah.
Oh, for sure, man. You were talking about not having the equipment and such back then. I think the only things that people had back then that you could wear, mostly it was like Pee Wee League, where they had like the cages over the face, which I never wore those. I don't think any of us guys wore those really if we were that age. But the stuff now, man, you go up there and it's like RoboCop going up to bat. You got a arm guard, a shin guard. You got the helmet that comes down over the cheek. It's like, my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway, dude, let's kind of talk a little, again, I kind of want to get a backstory of maybe some stuff, again, that might be uncomfortable, maybe not. But my mom ran into your Aunt Karen the other day, and she was raving about how good you were doing. So she was very proud of you. But man, her and your grandmother were saints. They were just super people. I really thought a lot of them. But kind of touch, if you want to, kind of touch a little bit home life growing up, maybe, just tell me a little bit about that. And because a lot of times, people who have addiction problems and things like that, they kind of can trace it back to either a specific moment or just a collection of moments from maybe a childhood, maybe someone not being around enough or seeing someone do something. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. So, so my life, growing up, so my parents, they had their own demons, but I didn't realize that until I got older. So, where I'm at today, I can see their struggles and some of the things that I had to go through to learn, and to also be able to forgive them here and later in life. But growing up, in my family, I had my grandpa Wayne, which was an awesome man. He worked. I don't know if you remember him, but
absolutely.
He was an alcoholic. Yeah. He never was a violent alcoholic, and he functioned, but his cirrhosis of the liver is what killed him. So he basically drank himself to death. So growing up, my dad, he followed my grandpa's steps, and he was a drinker, and he was in prison a lot. And Then my mom, she was just kind of confused and didn't know what to do. So she ran a bit, she had some surgeries and the doctors got her on pain medication. She couldn't quite shake that. So she was, and plus dad was gone. She was 19 when she had me. She probably didn't realize how to raise a child either, So that's kind of 5 is whenever my dad was gone and I kind of met you guys over there and we first moved over there. That's where some of the memories started. But with Grandpa, me and Ethan would hang out with him all the time, and he would take us to the VFW and the American Legion. Kind of grew up in that place, playing pool, and drinking ski and having some cheese puffs. But, he didn't know no better because I think I look back at this whole situation, like maybe if he knew better, he probably wouldn't have done it. But he would give us sips of beer here and there. And it's just like, you're an 8-year-old kid taking a drink of a PBR and you're like, yeah, I'm a man, I get hair on my chest. Just that thought process that goes with that. But when I got to about 11, I actually found my dad. He was out at the time. And this is when I remember I got my first good drunk. I found him passed out at my mom's, and I drank some wild turkey. And Grandma Kate found me in the ditch, throwing up some pasta I had earlier that day. She'd always covered for me, though. Granny did. She'd always take care of me, covered up. But I never really had much security, like with my mom. I love my mom, but she just was always going and trying to find her way in life. And then dad was kind of in and kind of out, kind of in and kind of out. So when I got to start staying with Granny and Karen about, I'd say 10 years old, I finally had security. I finally had everything I needed. But looking back at it, they pretty much enabled a lot of the stuff that I started to do later in life. So I never drank too much more after that 11. But then when I got into high school, I started just, go out with the guys on the weekends at about 13, 14 years old, 15, drinking on weekends. Granny knew. She'd always give me money to go get some and said, you can hang out in your bedroom. She'd rather me be at home than out being somewhere that she's afraid I was going to get hurt because mind you, she was 75 when I was born. So when I was living with her, she was mid-80s.
Right.
She would be 96. But she just wanted me to be safe. She kind of knew what young boys did, and because she raised so many kids herself. But I think, so looking back, there's some hereditary things going on there, like the gene and just also the availability of drugs and alcohol in my life. And I think the curiosity of, hey, I'm going to go out and try some of this. I'm going to try smoking a cigarette, even though it doesn't work with my lungs too well and I'm coughing it up, but I'm going to try it again. And then just trying to, I guess, find my place too, find to fit in, right? Because I felt like growing up that I was the only child. And then I had Ethan. He was my cousin, but we was more like brothers. But I guess I just wanted to be cool, fit in. So I started, but not knowing at the age of 13, 14 that I would become dependent on drugs and alcohol for quite some time in my life, and I couldn't stop. We'll get to that here in a minute. But, for the most part, I started off as an occasional binge drinker, smoking a little bit of marijuana. And when I got to be 25, and I was working at Belicios for a while, and I started to, and if you ever get into it, if people who has addiction issues, it's always the I'll never do and the not yets. But if you continue to do something like that, it's a progressive disease. And so you just continue to climb a ladder, so to say. So I tried the alcohol and the marijuana wasn't doing it for me anymore. So I started onto the pain medications, and then up to like the harder drugs we'll get to later on, which finally broke me down to a place to where I'm at now, where I got to recover. But it's just crazy. Most of drugs and alcohol, like I said, we'll go back. It was there when I was born, and it's through my life. Like I said, I saw my mom and my dad smoking weed in front of me as like a little baby. So I always smelled it and knew what it looked like and stuff like that. So I think it was just pretty much like the opportunity, the availability, the curiosity, all those things combined, and then not knowing that there is an addict behavior gene within me that from my grandfather and my dad and my mom, like on both sides. And I'm learning a little bit about that now, being in the recovery scene and working with guys and stuff down here, kind of what it's kind of controversial if you don't really know, but some people like it says it's a disease. Some people says it's a choice. I'm coming to believe it's a disease of the mind. It's something within the brain that an addict gets hooked on something, and then it's their thinking and all that they have to really work on. It's not so much quitting the drug or the alcohol, but working on the thought process that goes behind it, the obsessiveness of wanting to use and, to be dependent upon something to get you through your day kind of thing.
Sure. I think with myself, luckily I've never, done any of that stuff. It's never appealed to me. Mom and dad, it was never around. I never heard about it.
Right.
So to me, I think it's easy for somebody like me to say it's a choice. It's a weakness. And I still feel, obviously I haven't done as much research or delved into it as much as you have, but to me, I still feel it's a choice. It's a weakness, but I do agree that after so long of doing it, the chemical makeup in your brain changes and your body needs it. So that's when the kind of disease part starts. Those people who just kind of get in, oh, it's a disease. It's like, or, blaming it on, oh, my dad did it. And I'm not, singling you out. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But I always go back to my parents. They both grew up in households with alcoholic fathers, and they saw that every day. And neither of them drink, neither of them smoke. Like at that point, they made those decisions not to do it. So it's like, okay, at that point, it's still a choice. But like you said, when you get down that rabbit hole so much and you have that monkey on your back for so long, that chemical composition in your brain is changing. And that's where I think the disease process then begins.
I think I agree with you on that, because we'll tell guys all the time that when you get some sober time in, you finally can get your choices back, because eventually you get to the point where addiction makes you choose to do things that you normally wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. I know it did for me, because I would never take from somebody, because I always downed that, because my dad was in trouble for stealing when I was a kid. And I was like, I'll never do that. Right. And I'll never do that. But then later in life, when I got so far down in there, I was doing these things, and I would feel guilt and shame before I would do them. And I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't stop. I couldn't put my foot down and say no. My mind was just obsessing so much on the goal was getting what I needed to get through, right, that I would almost do anything to get to that point. Now today, I can sit here and say honestly that I have a choice today. I can choose today to leave this house and go to the store and walk through Publix and grab something off the shelf, walk through the liquor aisle, and not even have a thought that I got to have that today. But it took it took some time, the abstinence part, staying completely away from it, and then to work on the way I was thinking, and to build up some self-esteem and confidence that I really always lacked, that I always wanted, and I'm finally getting, today. But I have to agree with you on that. But for me, I more so, like I said earlier too, the curiosity of growing up around it and seeing, I guess as a young age, I wanted to see what it would do for me. And then going up, trying to hang out with the crowds I was hanging out with and wanting to fit in. And so we would get together and pass a bottle in the woods. And then that would just start going on more and more and more. And then it was like, before I know it, I'm 36 years old and I'm living homeless in Wellston, Ohio, in a homemade tent I made because every dime I had was going to the drug dealer's house. So that's where it finally took me. I couldn't even get jobs anymore. Actually, Belicios fired me one day because I went in there. I wasn't harming anybody. I was never a violent drug addict or an alcoholic. I was just shady and very untrustworthy and unreliable, a liar. It just made me into all these other things. And so they didn't want me there anymore. And so I couldn't even do anything anymore. To get to where you want me to talk a little bit to where I'm at today, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I want to get there. I want to ask you a few questions, circle back a little bit.
Absolutely.
Like you said, growing up, seeing your mom and dad kind of smoking and drinking in front of you, as you got older and you realized you were in kind of the throes of this addiction, and finally starting to get clean, what was your feelings like? Did you look back and like harbor a lot of anger towards them, a lot of resentment towards them? Is that something you had to overcome and finally accept, hey, they had their problems as well? Or, how did you feel about that?
Of course. So that's something that I got introduced to when I got down here. Was the 12 steps of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. They have NA too, but I kind of use AA, and I just plug in because alcohol was the first. And then also, what I'm in is a very spiritual, faith-based program, so we do a lot of that too. But believe it or not, forgiving them was easier than anything. Forgiving other people in my life, like my mom and my dad, I was able to do that pretty quickly. The number one resentment, the number one pain I had was towards myself. The person I became, the disappointment to my kids, to the people who cared and loved me, like Karen and Granny was no longer alive, but I know she would not want to see me the way I was. It was the man I become. So that took, I actually remember the day I finally looked in the mirror and started to see like a little bit what I saw. And that was 5 months into this program, because I did a year-long program, and I needed it. A lot of people were like, oh man, a year long. And I was doing the same thing. I was like, because we'll get into Judge Music, and he's part of this story, and he really helped step in and save me. But so I was able to forgive them pretty quickly, because I kind of really already knew, even before I got sober, that it wasn't their fault, really. It wasn't. I can't harbor this resentment towards them, because now I see I'm living what they had to go through, and they just didn't know there was a way out. And now I found that. And so part of the way I live and I want to live is to help other people like I was, that was lost and didn't know there was a way out, find hope and maybe see that it can happen for them, and maybe they can see it,
Sure. So how is your relationship with your folks right now?
It's really good. I actually have to love them from a distance. I did get to come home. I got to see your dad. That was last year. Mm-hmm. I talked to my mom all the time. My dad, he ended up getting some throat cancer while I was down here. Yeah, he had his voice box removed, so I can't hear him talk anymore. But I ask about him all the time. He's healthy now and is cancer-free. They're still together. It's good. They're proud of me and they love me, and I have to love them and love them where they're at. Their dad hasn't been in trouble for a really long time. He straightened up a lot. As far as I know, he doesn't really go out and do anything, that he's not supposed to be doing. And mom basically takes care of him. So mom's still my mom, and so I just love them where they're at. And, it's just, it's getting better. It's me and my mom was actually, and Jess came down. You remember my cousin Jess, right?
Yeah.
They come down for my graduation in 2018, and it was the first time that me and my mom was able to be in a room together, both sober, both enjoying things, and just moments like that makes it all worth it,
No kidding. It's probably almost like it's your mom, but it's almost like it's meeting a new friend.
Yeah.
Seeing each other in that different light, where you're both, like you said, both your heads are clean.
Right. Because physically we know, and that's something I always said too, because see, where I had to come so far away from home and leave everything I've ever known away, the missing aspect of that was so hard, right? Early on. And even like today, I miss seeing my kids all the time. But at some point I had to switch that into a motivation to become a man that they haven't really met yet inside, right? They know physically by looking at me, oh, that's my dad. But they don't know what the heart, the mind transformation that's taken place within that the person I'm getting to be now, to be able to be there for him. Like I just had my son down here in June, and we had an awesome time. And that's something I can sit and tell you I never thought was going to happen. Because of the way I was, right? And sure. The bridges I burnt and the things that I did, like for his mom to allow him to come down here was like a big deal. And I drove to North Carolina and picked him up, brought him back. He's a Jaguars fan, so we stopped by their stadium, and he got his picture taken out front. We went we done all kinds of things. We golfed, bowled.
Yeah.
Ate a lot. Yeah, it was a great trip. And then I sent him back home. And so that opens the door for more opportunities like that. And then driving home to see them. He's turning 15 Friday. So wow. I'm able to FaceTime him every day. And I made an amends to him too at the beach, even though I did it before to him. But, it was necessary and opened up a door for a healthy relationship for me and him going forward,
That's great, man. That's great. Going back, we've always been buddies. We were really big, friends, and obviously spent more time together up until 12, 13. And then, like you said, we kind of, you get into high school and you kind of have your different cliques. And obviously I was playing, baseball and basketball and things like that. So I didn't have as much time, for other things, other relationships or whatever. But we've always had that soft spot. You know what I mean? It's always like if I saw you out or if I needed something, I know, hey, I can holler at Dusty. I can holler at Dusty. And I never really realized how bad things had gotten. I think when we first kind of started to realize there was an issue, I don't know if you remember this or not, but you had stopped by here one night. Ed, can I borrow $20 or whatever? And Dad's like, sure. I mean, he would help. He would give you whatever he had. He cares that much about you, and Mom the same way. But then, Dad's kind of policy, hey, if I help you, just bring that back. Like, I'll give you 20, you bring it back whenever you have it. Then I'll give you 50 next time. You bring that back. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then it kind of, we're like, man, Dusty hasn't stopped back by for a while. Because usually you were right on the ball. You were here. And then I don't think from that point, I don't remember ever seeing you up until a couple years ago. I think I saw you drive by once in the back of a truck, but just from the look, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but just from the look, you could see you were ashamed. If that, not to be harsh, but you could tell that there was like, you looked, but you didn't really want to look us in the eye. You kind of waved and put your head down. So that's kind of when we knew what's going on, Do you remember that at all?
I don't really remember that, but I know that I had a lot of that shame. I like I said earlier, unreliable, untrustworthy. It was all self-centeredness. It was all me, and I didn't really think about who I was going to hurt or affect. At a point in my life, I got to the point to where I was okay if I just didn't wake up the next day and I wouldn't hurt anybody, right? And that was a lie that I created, a false belief that I believed for a long time that I wouldn't hurt anybody. But in reality, I would. I would hurt a lot of people. I had to overcome that too. But I eventually created this identity that I was just this piece of crap, all right? And I believed it for so long, and I believed my life wasn't worth living or it wasn't worth anything. And then doing those kind of things to people that I cared about, it just continued to lower that self-worth that was already low beforehand to a point to where I did that. That's who I became, this just shell of somebody just going by, with his head down all the time. I walked everywhere with my head down for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I remember. we would see you out and about, and it's, again, we didn't know what was going on, and we didn't know. I mean, is it our job to kind of go over and see how he's doing? You don't want to feel bad about it. We didn't want to make you feel bad. You know what I mean? We didn't want to embarrass you or anything like that. So it's like, what do you do? What do you say at that point? It's like, let him come to us if he needs anything from us. And same today, if you ever needed anything, you could come to us at any time. But yeah, man, we had no idea until I watched a video you did, I think at Jackson at the park, maybe a year or two ago, where you came up and you spoke to some folks about your recovery and such. And I was like, wow, man, I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, things that it's like that takes some guts, dude. And you went through a lot to get to where you're at, which again, we'll kind of talk about a little bit later. But one thing I do want to double back on also is we talked a lot about Ethan. Obviously, Ethan was kind of like a brother to you growing up, and he was here all the time with you as well. How's Ethan doing? I haven't seen him in 15 years. I know I'd heard rumblings that he was kind of going down a path where, hopefully he's okay.
From what I know, yeah, we are not very. I mean, not that we have any issues with each other, but he's got a family now, and he works a lot. He was drinking pretty heavy for a while, and I think he got a couple accidents in the car and gotten some issues over that. But Ethan's been able to maintain work and stuff, but he kind of just stays at home, takes care of the kids. He finally had a baby of his own a few years ago. She's a beautiful little girl. And then he married a lady. I think he married her. She already had a couple kids of her own. So he's got a full family now, and he lives in Jackson. I got to visit him when I came down.
Good for him. I always wonder how he's doing, man. One thing I remember about him that really kind of turned me in that, like, oh man, I hope he's not going down this path is, I don't know if I ever told you this story or not, but Jake Eberson and I were driving to Jackson one night. We were seniors in high school, and we were heading the Colton way. And man, we're driving along, and out of nowhere, we see a reflector, like at the last second, and dude bounces off the side of our car. We're like, did we just kill somebody? Like, what just happened? I mean, he came out of nowhere. Well, it turns out, we stopped, we go back to see what was going on, and it was Ethan. He was picking his bike up out of the creek. We're like, dude, what are you, and he was clearly not in his right mind at that time. Like, what are you doing? What's going on? And he's like, oh, fine, I'm fine. I'm good to go. And he took off, and we saw him Monday at school, and it was like nothing happened. He didn't say anything. We didn't say anything, but you could tell, man, I don't know. It appeared he had maybe been drinking or whatever, but he was 3 inches away from, us killing him, man. So I'm glad to hear he's kind of taking a different path, and hopefully he's doing well. If you do talk to him, please tell him I said hello. Cause again, I haven't seen him for a long time.
I will. He did reach out and told me happy birthday last month, so yeah, he's always working.
All right. Well, let's kind of advance a little bit. You said you had that one moment where you finally looked at yourself and was like, dude, I got to make a change here. What, was it a certain moment where you realized something's got to give? Where was it something to where you were in trouble with the law? I know a lot of times around here they'll say, hey, you can go to rehab or you can go to jail. Like it's one of the two. What do you want to do?
So here's the thing. I knew I needed help a long time before I got it, but I would try my best to do it on my own, and I would always fail. And so, because a lot of times your self-will fail you anyway. So, but I was still living homeless. This was a day, September 1st of 2017. I remember it very well. It was before Irma, but after the big hurricane that they had in Texas, and we got a really bad rainstorm from it. It rained really bad all day. I was still living outside in this tent. And that day I got up, and it was just like any other day. I mean, for me anyway, at that time, how am I going to get my drugs today, and what am I going to do? For some reason, this day, though, I went to the new to you store at daylight, like 4:30, and I was clear out of my mind. And I decided to take some shirts in there. And I probably hadn't slept in a week or 8, and I was weak, and I was done really, but I was still trying, to go and go and go until I couldn't anymore. And I got caught that day, and they held me there until the police came, and they took me down to jail. And mind you, I wasn't in a lot of legal issues, even though I had drug problems and stuff. I never really spent much time in jail. A couple times in the tank, and once for a fine, I think, for like 10 days. But this time I was going for a petty theft charge, and this was a pretty serious one for me. And they found some drug paraphernalia on me and everything. So they took me down there and they put me in jail. And so I go to meet Judge Music. I think I stayed a week before I met him. And he, I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember standing there and I'm like, this is the end for me, and he said something about, I see life worth saving in you. And I didn't see that. And he said, I want to give you 180 days in jail, or you're going to go to an inpatient treatment program. And he said, as a matter of fact, I want you to do the inpatient treatment program. And I was like, oh man, I go back to the cell, and I was like, my life's over. I thought, I was like, no way, I got to go away from everybody. I was still like holding on to stuff. I was using whatever I could to make an excuse for not getting recovery or not trying to better my life. I'm like, oh, I'll have to leave my kids or I have to leave my family. And I was living in a tent, that's how my mind was so mentally, I was so out there. It was not even, but anyway, so they bounced the idea about Portsmouth for 6 months. And then he brought up Florida here and it was a year. And I'm like, you want me to really trade in 6 months for a year? And he's like, yeah, but just, he kept saying, think about what you'll get back. And I couldn't see anything past, just getting it done and getting out of there. And so finally, after a couple of days, I agreed. I said, all right. And then some guy that I never knew, he kind of scared me a bit because he was a sheriff something. I don't know. I've never seen him before. He was a big man. And he came in this holding cell I was in. It was just me in there. And he shut the door and he said, do you know me? And I said, no. He says, well, I know you. And he said, I'm going to put my name on this request as a referral to get you down to Florida. And if you go down there, you better do right, he said. And he was stern about it, and he left. And I still don't know who he was, even to this day. And so I started thinking, let's do this. But it was still selfish reasons. Hurricane Irma came. I thought they're going to send me to a place with hospital beds, right? And they're going to feed me drinks and they're going to take care of me and they're going to get me work. Yeah. And they're going to get me work and I'm going to be making big money down there in a construction field or something, It was still all about me, and absolutely I couldn't have been any further from that mind I had, perception of what this Justin's Place thing was going to look like. And so they sent me down here. And the rest is, I'm just still recovering and trying to get right. You want me to tell you a little bit about the program, or do you want another question?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going to go to next. I know some of the folks from Wellston end up down there at that. I think it's the same program you're at.
Yeah.
If not, it's kind of the same area. I know, my neighbor Mike Jordan that I knew forever, unfortunately no longer here anymore. But I know he was down there for quite a while, and a few other names from here in town. But that's great, man. I think too, choosing Florida over Portsmouth, especially with the reputation that Southern Ohio has. I just read a report, I think yesterday, the day before, and they were talking about the top overdoses in the state, and they were all right here: Vinton County, Jackson County, Scioto County, Ross County. It was 6 of the top 10 or 8 of the top 10 were right here in Southern Ohio. Portsmouth used to be number 1. I think it got overtaken. I think it's number 2 now. But the stuff that goes on down there, man, it's just terrible, terrible reputation. So plus just getting, a couple, 1,200, 1,300 miles away from home, you're not going to be tempted. It's a lot easier to come and, come back here from Portsmouth than it is from Florida. So not having that temptation, being able to kind of focus on yourself, being away from everybody that everybody that might have, some kind of influence on you. I think you probably made the right decision there.
Yeah, and to go back on the Portsmouth thing, I was going to leave. If I did go there, my grandma has she worked at that flea market, and I was going to take. So I already had my mind made up. So, but coming here was the best thing I ever did. It really is, and you're right. It is the one that Mike was at, and several other Jackson County boys all around. I was number 51 that Judge Music sent down here, and since then, wow. I think that he's sent down a total of probably 90, if not more. I'll have to get the numbers from him. But me and him are we talk a lot. He's always helpful to me. We went and visited him when I came back to town, and he's always asking me about guys that he sends down here, and I can relay messages to him on how they're doing. And if I need something from home, when I had to get my driver's license back, he helped me with the paperwork I needed for that. And he's always he's telling me how proud he is of me. It's just awesome to have, somebody I look to as they ruined my life instead. So I have this saying he locked me up to set me free because I wasn't going to do this on my own. I needed that nudge. I needed somebody to believe in me when he did that when I couldn't do that for myself. And it gave me kind of the motivation to become another thing I can set and say real quickly, because this was happened in the courtroom. that really paved the way for where I am at today. As my son was 11 when this happened, and me and him was never apart. I was with him all the time, even, not so much emotionally, but there physically. And I never really like done a lot of craziness in front of him, but he kind of knew. He's 11 years old. He was crying, and I had to leave him. And my mom said, "It's okay, buddy. You'll get your dad back." And I thought of that, and I thought, he's never got to have his dad. He's never got to have his dad at all. I've been under the influence of some substance since he was born, but now here's a chance I can change that. So that was a big part in it right there, is just knowing that here is an opportunity. I have a good chance. So what do I got to do? Right? What do I got to do? So I came here, and I stayed open-minded, and I humbled myself. You start off in a homeless shelter. So you got any other questions on that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, man, I was just going to see, first of all, what's the name of the place that they sent you to?
It's StMatthews'sHouse.
Okay.
So we have a male and female program. It's Justin's place and Jill's place. They're year-long faith-based programs. And we also have a homeless shelter, 2 of those. And we have 6 thrift stores and a car wash that's our social enterprises that help. It's a nonprofit organization. And, we have like benefits and donors that provide all the stuff that we need for the residents and stuff like that.
Very cool. Very cool. So they send you down there. What's first day like? What's going through your mind as you're on your way down? And B, when you finally do get there, is it what you think, or is it something completely different?
Well, it's completely different. And what's going through my mind is this. So another thing, the night before, my mom was supposed to pick me up, take me to the airport. And so my mind said, okay, mom's coming to get me. I could probably go get high one more time, right? I didn't tell anybody this. And so at 4 a.m, Brian Irvin, he's from Wellston, I think. Yeah. He came on behalf of the probation department and drove me down to Cincinnati to the airport. So I had no option to do anything. So he drove me there. I'll never forget that. I got on the plane, and I've never been on a plane before. So my anxiety was through the roof. I was freaking out. I was scared. I was full of fear. I was wondering to myself, how am I going to do this by myself, right? And then I was still thinking, hospital beds, probably a pool. I always pictured Passages Malibu,
right?
And I thought that's kind of what it would be, but it was totally different. So I get down here. They pick me up. They bring me to Naples, Florida. It's beautiful down here, by the way. It's completely different than Wellston. I mean, it's beautiful. There's so much things to do, the beach. And I go to this first day 1, homeless shelter, which I should have been in Ohio, but they're always so far away. So I've never experienced a homeless shelter, but this homeless shelter is different than all others. I mean, it's a high quality, top-notch homeless shelter. They take care of their people. They have some of the best food. So I'm already eating, but I had a mat on the floor, on this concrete floor, because they want to humble you.
Sure.
They want to kind of let you know, here's where you ended up. Here's where your decisions made you. So I did that for a couple nights. I think 5 nights on a mat. You have to be up and out all day, and it's really hot, so you have to out walking around trying to find stuff to do. And then after the 5 days, you start 28-day called motivational track. And so this is in an old firehouse, and it's 14 men. So right there extinguished the idea I had to do it by myself. You're in with 14 men, not all make it. And you start your recovery journey, and it has a feeding ministry. So we feed chronic homeless people from the get-go. You're preparing food and serving lunch and dinner to homeless people. So you're getting out of yourself and you're helping others, which is an awesome, awesome thing to get started on.
So those first 5 days, you said you had to be out and about all day. So did they stick like a chaperone with you? Did they stick a buddy with you? Do they drug test you when you come back? Obviously they want to try to keep track, right?
Yeah, so they breathalyze you every night, but they don't necessarily drug test you all day. They do have, they call peer mentor with you at all times. You'll have they try to create a somewhat schedule, but the 5 days on the floor is kind of just mainly just sitting there, getting to know each other. You got a little bit of work stuff to do, but they're kind of easing you into it. Because it's a 1-year program. So you're going to do the 12 steps of recovery. You're going to do one step a month.
Okay.
So that first month you're going to do step 1, and you're going to do it. They're going to ingrain that into you that you're powerless and your life is becoming manageable, and you're going to admit that to them, and you're just going to learn the whole gist of how things work. Still don't know what the second phase looks like, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's telling you different stories because after you get to Justin's place and you do 28 days, and if you get through that, you got to do 6 months in LaBelle, Florida, which is an hour and 20 minutes away from Naples, and it's in the middle of Florida, which no beaches or nothing, but it's on this old golf course, and it's a hotel, and the 3rd floor and 1st floor for the residents of the program, and the 2nd floor is an operating working for customers to want to rent a room.
Okay.
But it does have, we call it an oxbow. It's like an old golf course, like small river, you can canoe that. You have a full basketball court. You have a full tennis court. You have a gym. You have a full volleyball court. You have 48 acres to mosey around on. You have a running track. So it's pretty much a resort that you can either vacation on and kill time and just kick it, or you can dig into your classes and, try to start on your work-life balance thing. And so it's a really nice place. And then after that, 6 months, you come back to Naples, and you can work a job within the organization for 3 months part-time, still do classes. And then after that, your 10th month, you can get a full-time job anywhere you want. I chose to come back and serve at the motivational track as a peer mentor and intern to give back and help. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Very cool. Very cool. That's what, like I said, I saw your video. I don't know, you posted maybe a year or so ago when you were out talking, and it was not the Dusty I remember, or what I mean, like in a good way. It was like, wow, man, he's up there, he's talking, because used to, like you said, you kind of always had your head down, and you wouldn't say a whole lot in a big group like that. But man, you're out there confessing everything to these strangers that you don't know. And I was like, wow, he's, I think probably just being in that program got you to that point where you felt comfortable with that.
Yeah, and vulnerability is where I find I'm strong. I get strength from that, right? Because I needed somebody there when I first got here, and to show me that there's hope, and that they love me, and it's okay, and you can do this, and you can change your life. You can change the direction your life was on. Because at a point in my life, I thought I'd never be amount to anything, and I'll never find a purpose. And I think that's all that any of us ever really want, really, in life, is to find out what is your purpose. What is it that you want to do? What is it you want to leave behind, kind of thing. Anyway, do you want me to continue to speak on the Justin's Place thing, or?
Of course, man. Question? Yeah, no, this is okay. Great. It's again, if anybody's out there kind of struggling and thinking, man, I don't want to be going to no rehab, I even know I need it, they can hear this and think, well, this cat did it, maybe I could do it too. So if they get kind of more insight into what it is, like you said, I think a lot of people, there's a stigma attached to, a rehab center, or especially in older movies or something you see, and you're like you said, I think I'm going to go and be in a hospital bed. They're going to give me this little cup of medicine. I'm just going to be laying around or whatever. But it's good to hear what actually goes on.
Yeah, the Jell-O cups and everything. No, but so anyway, back to Justin's Place, I became an intern, and before I came down here, I never had recovery before. I didn't know, I've never been in an AA room or any kind of recovery room. And that, so I wanted to learn more and help people. I knew one thing, I wanted to help people, and I didn't want to do it for my own motives or intentions. I knew the pain I felt and the dark times I went through, and I didn't wish that upon anybody. And I thought, just if I could go there and help one guy feel more comfortable trying to find who he is and trying to recover, then I'm going to do the right thing. So I went there, and the best thing I ever did, because it opened up the door to where I'm at today. But I did that for 6 months. and I helped a lot of guys that I knew. They sent, because Mark was still sending them down here. So I was picking up people from the airport. And so it was crucial that I felt like I needed to be there at this, the beginning stages, because of when I got down here, how scared I was. And I didn't want to be here, man. And I don't know how many flights I booked home in my mind. Like, today's the day I'm gonna leave, right? I'm gonna go back home. And then someone would always say, play the tape out. What would you do? Think about it. Stop, pause, and think. What are you going to do if you go back home? Where do you think that'll lead you? How long do you think you'll make it around the same people you were with? Here's a chance at a better way. And so I was blessed because I had a guy named Jake who came from Wellston. This is a good story too. We met in jail. I'm 10 years older than him, but he knows all the same people I knew. And so we never really knew each other from the street, and we met in jail. And he came down like 3 days after I did, and with another guy from Wellston. The other guy left. Jake almost left, but I went up and we started talking. We clicked together, and Jake is the main reason I'm where I'm at, because it seemed like days I wanted to give up, he was there saying no. He was speaking the truth and convincing me to stay. And then, like, if he had that kind of day, I was not. I was doing vice versa. I was telling him to stay. And now today he's married and doing well, and I'm married and doing well. And like, we just went to the driving range the other day, and we're like looking back at these things, these moments we had, like from jail to best men's at each other's wedding to like this life that we have today. Like, we've been truly blessed to be put in each other's path, because I know I couldn't have done it without him, because this thing's a team effort. If I would have took my will back and tried to work my own recovery or do things my way, I'd have left already. But anyway, he also got to work with me. We went through the whole program together, and then we worked together helping people. And then I ended up taking a program staff job for Justin's place. So I worked with the men for another year at the same place I was at. And then I decided to come to the homeless shelter and apply for a case manager position, not knowing if I would get it. And I ended up getting it. And I've been there now a year and a half. So I graduated in 2018, and I started working 2 days after, and I'm still with StMatthews'sHouse, and I'm going back to school, and I get to help people. I get mostly people in my caseload who struggles with addiction, and I just help them find resources and help them get their lives back, whether that be a doctor, an ID, a job. Sure. So I'm still like on the ground level of helping people. And when I do that, I help myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Because, hey, they're where I used to be. So that's super cool. And they can take motivation from you, seeing, hey, man, I did it. I'm here. You can do it too. And I know that casework, social worker stuff, man, that's not an easy job. That is not an easy job. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, it's mentally and spiritually, it can become pretty draining. So I'm always trying to fill my cup up, because I can't pour from an empty cup. And so I have an awesome team and a boss, and my job where I work is amazing. There is a lot of tragedy, a lot of death. Of course, that's part of life. But when you're in a recovery community, and you're close to some of these people, it happens more so than people want, to have to deal with. But we get through it together, and I have an awesome small group at my job. And then I'm still connected in AA and a church. Me and my wife are members of a church, and she's awesome too. I can get ready to talk to her. She's also a graduate of Jill's place, and we met after the program. And
I was going to ask you about that, if that's something you wanted to touch on.
Yeah. So this new way of living, I didn't want to be alone in it. I wanted to share it with somebody, and she was placed in my life, and she's amazing. So she is really driven. She loves to help people too. She started as a cashier at one of the thrift stores, and now she manages the Immokalee thrift store. So she's climbed all the way up. She's going to school, and she's like, we walk together side by side. It's like she pushes me and I push her. It's something that, having this newfound way of living and freedom and the passion you have in your heart for life now, and to have that person with you, it's like, my life today is like, I never could have dreamed about it. I mean, I have everything I need. and she's amazing. And we do a lot of fun things together. She has 2 children, and they're 23 and 21. And I have a boy and girl, and I have a boy and girl my son will be 15, my daughter will be 17. So we have a full family now, and kids live down here. And Susan spent her life kind of like mine, and a lot of relationships in recovery won't work because of the fact that one might not be going in the same direction. But me and her has been going side by side, chasing the same kind of goals, and so it works that way. It's like she pushes me to do better and not to be complacent. She tells me if I need to do something, she'll tell me I need to do it instead, in a loving way. But if she sees me like taking it easy on, because this recovery thing is something that me and her can't just say, all right, we made it, right? We recovered, we're fine now, because it's dangerous to get there. Sure. Because it's something we have to continue to work on ourselves and to grow and to get better. So she's always doing that for me.
That's fantastic, man. That's so good to hear. And it's always cool to see your pictures, so you guys posting the pictures, and you can tell the happiness from both of you. Obviously I've never met her, but just seeing those look on your guys' face, you can tell that that's a relationship that you're like, all right, these guys, like you said, we work together, we complement each other, and you're there for each other. So it's good to see.
Yeah, it feels good.
One thing I want to touch on too is you kind of got on a little bit about faith and going to church, and that's one thing I've really noticed with a lot of your posts and a lot of your listen to you talk is the faith aspect. You want to touch on that a little bit? Coming up, coming up as a child, were you a believer? Did you is this something you reached a point and you were like, whatever, just somebody help me, or you know what I'm saying? Did you always have that belief? Was it in there, or was it something you finally just kind of got down and said, okay, I need help, and I know there's only one person who can help me with this?
Well, the belief was there because of Grandma Willie. So she was a woman of faith. We went to Sunday school. I got a funny kind of funny, not funny story. I was so ornery as a kid, and I'm sure you know this, because I was hyperactive, right? And I was on the Ritalin and everything. But I remember went to First Baptist Sunday School, and I bit my Sunday school teacher in the arm, and they kicked me out of Sunday school. So, yes, I did believe. But then, like, when I started doing the lifestyle I was doing, I ran from that for a long time. But do you know, I never tell too many people this, but even in my worst of worst times, in the darkest nights, I prayed for God to help me find a way out of this. And it was in his timing. It wasn't in mine. It took what it took. I had to experience some of the pain and some of the despair. I had to experience that, because that's part of where I'm at today. I don't think if I wouldn't have had to go where I had to go and go through what I had to go through, I don't believe I would be where I'm at, because it's all part of the story. And so I reignited that when I got down here, because it is a faith-based program. A lot of people struggle with that. That's okay. I believe that somebody it's spiritual, not so much religion. So what I have is a personal, unique relationship with Jesus, and I talk to him and I pray to him, and it's something that looks different than what everybody else would have with him, because I believe it's something that is personal with them and their walk and where they're going to go and what their plans are and their spiritual gifts may be. I reignited that when I got down here, and I dug into it, and I started to see, like, he did make that way for me, and he is doing that. And, like, it's weird because there's things that I'll pray for that I don't tell people, and he grants them things. Them things happen in my life. Because Naples, where I live, it's very expensive to live. This is just one of the things that he's helped me with. Like, it's probably like $1,200 to have an apartment here a month. Like, you're in Wellston, you can get a 4-bedroom farmhouse with like 50 acres for probably $800, right?
All right.
So, but coming up through there and making little money in a nonprofit, he's always he's given me everything I needed. An apartment, a car, food. I have everything I needed, and he just keeps blessing me. And he blessed me with a beautiful wife and awesome friends, and like an awesome job and opportunity to go back to school and learn about addiction studies. And I'm learning a lot about mental health and how to help people, because we deal with a lot of that too. It's just, Yeah, so I see him, and we do the church. We go to church, and we also do Bible studies, and we try to serve on our church team and stuff like that. I have a lot of joy in that because I know he has done these things for me. It's something that I had to put the footwork in, but I mixed footwork with faith, and then that equals sobriety. That equals, having a job, being reliable, consistent. You have to be. I think you have to put the footwork in. He'll meet you, but he's not going to do it for you. It's like, God, I need your help. He's like, okay, but you have to do this. Okay, I got you. And then you have to do that.
Yeah, sometimes you got to get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, and I've done that a lot down here. Like public speaking is not one of my big strong suits. So, getting up in front of a bunch of guys or going to meetings and church and things like that and having to talk, getting real sweaty, or just going and helping somebody that you might not feel too comfortable in, or being behind a desk, using a computer. That I can tell you this, before I came down here, I could use a phone. I never could use a computer. I've learned a lot of that down here. So he keeps just helping me with that and learning, putting people in my life to support me and show me the way. So yeah, I've reignited that down here and pretty strong in it right now. Continue to learn more, because I'm still kind of a baby in my relationship with God and trying to learn what he wants from me. But I know I'm on the right path when I can go to work every day. And there's days I'll just drive to work and just start crying. Not that I'm sad, but that I'm happy that my heart's full of gratitude today. And I don't take a life for granted, because there's this thing called the magic bank account. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
It's about time, right? It talks about how your deposit 84,600 seconds every day, and it makes it sound like it's money and you can spend it, but it's not refundable. And if you read it, it's about time, and it makes you really think about, okay, now what am I going to do with this time I have today? Because I wasted so much of it, right? I threw so much of it away. What am I going to do with the time I have now? And to me, that means a lot.
Yeah, man. Very cool. Very cool. That's a good way of looking at it. Like you said, you're only given so many seconds in a day, do something productive with it. And we all waste time on certain things. There's days you're going to be lazy, whatever. But like you said, go out there, put forth your best foot, man. Go out there and help others. I think that's the big thing. If you can help somebody else feel better, whether it be just to laugh, one laugh or one smile or one conversation could change somebody's entire outlook. Maybe not on their life permanently, but for that day, you could maybe make them feel better for a couple minutes. And that means a lot.
Yes.
Well, man, I appreciate you talking about that. Anything else about that program that, would be beneficial to anybody listening that might be kind of on the fence? Like, I don't know if this is something I need, but I don't know if I want to go through it.
Well, I can tell you this. You're trading in a year, but you're getting back your life. And to me, that's priceless. You're getting a year to focus on you and your traumas and your pain, because that's a lot of it too. We might be traumatized by something, right? I remember one time I woke up, and this is back to when I was a kid. I woke up in a house over there on Pennsylvania Avenue. It was an apartment me and Mom was living in. I was probably about 5 years old. And I got up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water. And these are something, that's in my mind. And she wasn't there. And I was scared. And I crawled back under. And this happened more than once. And I would cry. And I was scared. And I never really thought much more of that. But then when I started getting, deep within myself in this program, I realized I had some abandonment things I needed to work on, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was able to fix all those things. I mean, I'm not completely recovered or completely put back together, but I'm far, far away than where I was at. So I'm able to recognize that, work on that and let that stuff go and move ahead. And I don't walk in shame anymore. That's something we talked about earlier. No more do I walk in shame, like the things I did before and stuff. Now, every now and again, I'll wake up and I don't know if it's the addiction or if it's the enemy, the devil, or whatever it is, but I'll get tapped on the shoulder and it's like myself will whisper to myself, hey, remember that time you took money from your grandma or something like that? And I'm like, yes, I do. But I also remember that I done worked this out with God and I was been forgiven and I done wrote that letter, and I worked that out, and I cannot let that hold me down anymore. The shame and the guilt, because a lot of people come into recovery and they're so shameful and they're full of guilt, and they created this identity of themselves like I did. Like, I thought I was such this piece of crap that the stranger at the gas station that seen me in passing thought the exact same thing I thought of myself. That's how I thought. And that's a false belief. So it helps you like rediscover who you are and things about you that you never knew you had, gifts inside you. Like, after a year, you start to finally get clarity. For some of us, a year is still not enough. And I'm still working on myself. But a lot of people like me that use drugs and alcohol for 20 some years, I don't know if 28 days or 6 months is going to be enough to fix some of that stuff, that past pain, that trauma, those issues I had and that I needed to look at, look inside myself. Like, what is it about this what is my part in this, right? What is my part in these busted relationships I had, right, with girls growing up? Or what did I do wrong? It forces you to look within deep and shed all that stuff so you can become that new person, right? I call it like you're like a caveman, right? And you're like evolving into this new spirit, this new person. And it's exciting. It's tough, though, because a lot of people that come from where we come from, you got to leave family. You got to leave everything you've ever known. Like me, it was the first time on a plane. I never really been out of Jackson County. I never had to see a bunch of traffic jams or anything like that. So just things like that. It's a culture shock. But if you can surrender and say, okay, I'm going to do this because it's going to better myself. It's going to better my parents. They're going to get their son back. My kids are going to get their dad back. I'm going to get myself back. It becomes bigger than you at some point, right? My recovery now is bigger than me because my kids rely on it. My mom and dad rely on it. My wife relies on it. My friends that want to talk to me, that want me in their life, they're going to want to rely on that. And people that need hope is going to need to rely on that. So, I guess it's just something that they have to really ask themselves, do you want your life back? And what are you willing to do for it?
Very well said, man. I have a friend who we've been trying to, I've tried to get them help for a long time. They have an alcohol issue. Obviously I won't mention any names or anything like that, but it's like, do they have to hit, what are your thoughts on, do they have to hit rock bottom? Obviously you can want somebody to get help as much as you want to, but they're not going to get help until they want to. So do you see more people down there that are taking that initiative and coming in, or do you see people who have, man, I'm at rock bottom and now I need help? Does that make sense? Does it feel to you like you got to go all the way down to climb yourself back up? Or do you see also people who take that step and say, okay, I got a problem. I don't want that problem to get worse, so I'm going to go get help?
There is occasions. Mostly it's the people that just are so they have no other options, right? They ran out of it. But there is occasions where people will come down and they're like, okay, I want to make this decision before it gets too worse. But sometimes it takes what it takes. And you're right, we can't recover for someone else. So being in recovery now and getting close to a lot of people, then watching them fail and then trying to love them where they're at and tell them, the best thing is like, I love you. I'm here for you. I'll help you. Anything that you're willing to do to better yourself, I'll help you. But if it's anything that's going to be going down the other road, I can't help you. But I'm still here for you. So, yeah, there's some that come and do that. But then they might start forgetting how bad it was, right? Because a lot of people will come like I did, and they'll just forget after a while that they was homeless. Their life wasn't manageable. They was stealing from their family, or they couldn't hold a job, right? And they forget that. So no matter how far down you go, and I don't think, you have to hit bottom to get recovery. I don't believe in that. I believe that if you want it and you know that it's affecting your lifestyle, your use is affecting your lifestyle, then you can change. But you can't forget that if you decide to use again, that you're going to be where you was at before, if not worse. So for me, my bottom would be death, of course, but I was already homeless. I was already in jail. They say jail's death in institutions, and I was already, in the hospital and in jail and homeless. So for me, I can't go have there's plenty of people who can drink 6 beers after work, and I commend them for that, and I'm glad they can. But this guy, I cannot, because I cannot just stop. I have this, I don't know what it is. If I start drinking tonight, I'm not going to stop. I'll probably end up back to where I was at, and so you just got to remember, even if you recover at whatever spot you're at in life, remember that if you use again, that your life will become the way it was before. You can't control it. It will eventually control you, and you just have to let that go,
Well, man, like I said, you sound like you're doing great. It's great to hear that. And I appreciate you coming on and talking about this, because obviously, like we said, there's a stigma attached to addiction and mental health and different things like that. And a lot of times people put it off, and it's nothing to look down at yourself upon. Like you said, your self-esteem can go, but there's always people out there willing to help. What's your advice, man? Any more advice to anybody, any last, as far as like last words go for the podcast, anything else that you would say to somebody if they're talking to you right now and they're saying, man, here's my issues, what do I do?
Well, I would say don't compare. If you're just drink alcohol and you want to try to compare yourself to someone that uses heroin, it's all if your life's unmanageable and you can't hold down a job, or you can't be available for your family, and you can't support your family, or you're lost, or you're feeling of hopelessness and despair, reach out and get help. And there's plenty of people to be willing to help you. And you won't be considered weak. That's only like you said, the stigma. People are weak, or they're just crazy, right? They're just born that way. No, you can find yourself again, and you can take back control of your life. And your life is worth living. That's what I would say. A lot of people like myself got to the point to where I thought it wasn't worth living, and it took a lot of time and healing for me to get to the point where I'm at today. And I love life now, and I'm very grateful. But just ask for help. If you feel like if you're taking money out of your rent money to buy drugs or alcohol, and so that might be a problem. Or if you're like I was and you're homeless, just ask for help. You're the only one that's going to think you're weak. The people that know, and they're going to be there to help you, and they're going to be there to love you where you're at and help you until you can love yourself again. And I'd also like to tell you, man, tell your mom and dad that I love them, and I'll never forget how awesome they was to me.
Of course, man. We all love you too. You always have that. Again, you always have that special place. There's guys you grew up with, and you go separate ways, and you kind of, you forget about them. Oh yeah, I remember that guy. But you're one of those who you're a part of us. You're a part of the family. Anything you would ever need, man, there's no reason you couldn't get in touch with us. We're proud of you. We're definitely, seeing, I show mom and dad the videos at times when I am home. Obviously I'm not here all the time, but when I am this way, I kind of keep them updated on how you're doing, show them pictures of you and your wife. And they're really proud of you, man. It's really neat to see.
Yeah. And, it's nothing about this is easy either. I will say that real quick. It's probably the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, but it's the best thing I ever did, most beneficial. I mean, in the last, I'll celebrate, hopefully, 1st of September will be 4 years of sobriety, and I never could do a day when I was trying to. So I would just say, ask for help, and you can do it. You can do it, and build a support system. And I always call it put on your armor. And what that means to me is like connect with people who are in recovery, and take notes and listen, and just let go of the past, move forward to the brighter future.
That's great, man. Like I said, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you, but I'm really happy for your kids. I'm really happy for your kids that they get to see, okay, this is dad. The guy I knew before, like you said, that was him physically. But this is a new guy now I can be proud of. I can say, this is my dad. Not that they weren't before, but just in a different way. You get to give all of yourself to them now.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, anything else you want to talk about? Any I don't know, any old stories, anything like that? Or you ready to wrap this thing up, man? We've talked about everything as far as recovery and things like that I wanted to get into. And again, I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, I had a blast. It brought back some memories, though, about the old man's caves trips, and we'd do home run derbies in the yard. Remember we was the Bash Brothers.
Of
Dwyer
course.
and Seiko, yeah.
Of course. Funny story, man. I watched the little 15-minute clip on the Bash Brothers this morning. And yeah, dude, that was good times. Those late 80s, early 90s, that was definitely fun times. I was talking to a patient the other day that I was treating, and she was talking about her family going to Long's Retreat. And I'm like, man, I haven't been to Long's Retreat in years. And I don't know if you remember going with us, but that's actually the only time I was there. I think we were 12 years old. I think you're a year older than me, right? Are you 40?
Yeah.
Just turned. So I'm 39. So I think I was 12 and you were 13, or you were 12 and I was 11. But do you remember that trip going out to Long's Retreat?
Parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's the only time I've been there. Every time somebody brings it up, I automatically think of you because
I remember the old man's caves and the ice cream trips.
Oh man, yep, a lot of fun, a lot of ball playing, going down to the field, man, playing track down, all that fun stuff, dude. That's the thing. I'm a pretty sentimental guy. I'm pretty nostalgic, and I think about that a lot. And I think it sucks again as we get older. You lose friends. A lot of times you keep in contact with those you want to keep in contact with. A lot of times situations dictate, man, I just don't want to associate with this person. And it sucks, man, because you look at all the fun times you had, and those are never taken away. But you just want one more day of that. Like one more day, I'm gonna ride my bike over to Dusty's grandma's, and he's gonna get on his bike, and we're gonna go through town. You know, you just want those days back, and unfortunately, all we got is those memories. But man, we made some good ones, and I have a lot of stuff on tape. I have a lot of stuff on film that one of these days when we get the time to go through some stuff, I'll put together either a little video for you, or I'll make some copies of some pictures, and I'll get them down there because I plan on coming to Florida sooner than later. So if I'm ever down that way, I'll definitely like to get with you, take you out to eat, and just, hang out a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of good memories from back in them days. We'd play them games, and always be outside too. We'd always be playing ball.
Always, man. We would put 10 to 12 people in the old Nova and head down to the ball field. Like, nowadays,
the old Nova.
I don't remember that old gold thing, right?
Yeah.
Terrible seats.
I remember that. That was a nice car.
The seats poking you because they were ripped there at the end. And yeah, man. But those were fun times. I'm glad we grew up in the era we did without the cell phones and without the iPads and all that kind of stuff. It was just, we were outside. Not that how people are growing up today is any, I'm not going to be one of those old guys, get off my lawn type guys, but things were just different. To us, they were better. But to this generation, probably not. They're probably like, what? You guys did that?
Yeah. Growing up in that era was awesome. The music, the cartoons, the movies.
Right. No doubt.
All the times we got to have, yeah.
No doubt. One thing I will say to end this, man, we had, I think he was more of a friend of you. I think you guys hung out. I knew Bill. I wasn't a huge, I didn't run in the same circles with Bill. But we lost Bill Sparks here recently. I believe you guys were pretty good friends at one time, at least. Is that correct?
Yeah, me, him, and Randy, we all went to school together. So yeah, we hung out a lot in high school. We drifted apart through the years. We was in touch here recently in Facebook, and he would reach out to me, or I'd reach out to him. Kind of always, stayed, seeing how he was doing and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just another something. It happens a lot. I mean, I always getting someone I knew from back home. My mom was telling me that's passed away. Losing Colt a few years ago was rough for me because I was down here and I was probably only in the first year of my recovery. So that was a tough one too.
Sure. Yeah, man, that was, I believe he was at my uncle's house when that happened because, my Uncle Melvin is married to Elaine. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where Colt was when that happened. And I always think about his brother, man. I know Jason's got his issues, and I've always liked Jason. We played a lot of softball together. Obviously, we don't hang out, but anytime we're together, I think a lot of him. I really hope maybe he can one day get his life turned around. I don't know. But back to Bill, man. I know we lost Randy quite a few years ago. Randy's grandmother, Miss Blankenship, lived up behind us for years, and Randy would always be up there. And he was a good kid. I always liked him a lot, but I just wanted to mention Bill. And again, I'm not trying to pretend like him and I were best friends or anything like that. But we had communicated on Facebook actually about 2 or 3 months ago, and then I'd always watch his Facebook videos that he would post and things like that. But it's just sad to we're to that point. I mean, it's not like we're old, but you start losing people, unfortunately, and it's only going to get more commonplace the next 10, 15 years, unfortunately. But you always have those memories, like we said earlier,
Yeah, and I think that goes to, it makes me really think and go back in again on that time thing and what we have, why we're here and what we want to try to do, and how you want people to think about you and look back on you. Because my story wasn't good for a long time, and if I would have went out then, I couldn't imagine, now I have a chance to fix some things and do some things right. And it's just never gets easy though, hearing about somebody that we know that we was in school with that just passed away. But got to keep on moving and honor them, by the memories that we had,
Absolutely, man. Well, again, buddy, we're proud of you. We love you. Reach out to us. Get in touch with us. Anything you would ever need, just to say, hey, you got my number. You got my, obviously, contact info, email, Facebook stuff. Get with me, dude. I like to get back to being, more in touch with you. Because, again, we were so tight for so long, and then you drift away. And it's neat to reconnect, whether it be, 10, 15, 20 years later, like it is with us now. But it's like nothing changed, you get back into those same conversations. You have the same memories up to a certain point, and you can just kind of feed right back off of each other. It's like, time hasn't even gone anywhere.
Right. Same here, man. Anytime you come down here to Florida, we get together. It's really, it's really nice here. And then if you ever need any information on that someone needs to know about St. Matthew's House, I can help with that. It's on the internet too, stmatthewshouse.org, Naples, Florida. It's got all the information there, what we do. And so if you know anybody that needs to reach out for help or whatever, just have them contact that number or contact me, and I can run them through the process.
Very cool, man. I'll try to remember to put a link up whenever I post this interview. I'll put a link up to that so that, they can get the information there.
Yeah.
All right, pal. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. It was great talking to you, and hopefully we'll talk to you pretty soon, okay?
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Dust. Keep going.
All right. Bye.
Bye, bud. All right, guys. That's today's episode. I want to thank you guys for listening. I also want to thank Dustin for coming on and really opening up. Hopefully, if anybody out there struggling and they hear this, hopefully this will help them out and kind of, let them know they're not alone out there. They can reach out. If they're looking into a place to go for rehab, you can always reach out to Dustin. Again, you can check out StMatthews'sHouse.org. I'll put a link up on my page as well to go visit the site. But again, guys, if you if you're struggling, if you feel like you need help, there's people out there. There's always people that'll listen. If you feel like you've reached that point of needing some help, take that opportunity to go get some help. There's always people there to help. There's always people there that will listen. So, again, thanks for listening to the episode, and we'll be back soon with the 31st episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast.